It is Parenting Tuesday. Wazazi, mufute stool na viti karibu na radio na TV. We have an interesting conversation. We began this conversation several weeks ago talking about the stages of child development. Tukaanza akizaliwa. Today we are talking about the young adults. Amekuwa. Now that they are young adult, what do we need to know? How do we navigate through that season of parenting? In studio via Zoom, got two amazing guests. First and foremost, psychologist and educator, Dr. Irene Churu. Dr. how are you doing?
I am good. I am very well, Percy. Very good to see you.
Good to see you
Happy
too.
to be back.
I love the outdoors. I feel like I should also go out so that we can rhyme.
Let's do that.
Karibu sana, it's good to have you.
Thank you.
We also have Reverend Jeremiah Kibanya. He is the Minister for Teens and Young Adults at ACK St. Mary's Syokimau. Reverend, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Pastor. It's such a pleasure to be once again on this show discussing a very, very important and pertinent topic about parenting and about the young adults.
Awesome. Karibuni sana. Daktari, let me begin with you. Hii term young adults, it is neither here nor there. When we talk about young adults, what are we referring to? How old are these young adults?
Okay. It's a good expression. It's neither here nor there, actually, because it's almost a new recognition we are coming to in the last 2 decades that there seems to be a stage between adolescence and full adulthood, whatever that means. Full adulthood, right? That's another one. But in any case, the transition period from adolescence to full adulthood seems to take a good bit longer than it used to in the past. So from around 17, some people will say 18, even 20, going all the way to 25 and even 30, that age, so long as people are not yet settled and yet physically they have physical full maturity, but they're not yet settled, they're not committed, they don't have means of livelihood. This is the young adult. And in some cultures, they call them emerging adults.
Yes.
It was used interchangeably, but it's talking about that business of being neither here nor there. You know, you're not a child, you're not an adult. This is the piece we are talking about.
Okay. Reverend, these are the young people you interact with.
Yes.
So you have a lot to tell us.
Perhaps we could talk the whole year, but the good thing to note is that the time is right for these conversations about the teens, the young adults, and even bringing up children in this dispensation. I think life is now more challenged than it was before. They have a lot of issues, and the issues are not just negative, they are very good. So there is a lot of hope. It gives me joy when I minister to them as a social worker, knowing that although I may not impact at the highest echelons of society, maybe more effectively, but at this level, then there is room. They're willing to learn, they're listening, and definitely there is a lot that you can also learn in reviewing and looking at where are they at and what are they saying. So yes, I can share a few voices that I've learned from them.
Let's talk about identity, Reverend, because at this point, they are crafting their own identity. And as a parent, probably there's that identity, that you had wanted them to take on. Maybe where values are concerned, careers are concerned. Kama mzazi kuna ile ulikuwa umeona ulikuwa unampangia. But now they're becoming, they're growing into adulthood. They have their own mind, they're making their own decisions, and they're coming into their own identity. And sometimes that's the struggle. How do we deal with that issue?
Thank you. It's an identity moment, and even for parents, the challenge is the same, that they don't realize the child they have, the baby they had, who obeyed every order, who woke up at the time they said, slept at the time they said, did whatever they wanted, now is growing up, is having a mind of their own. They're inquisitive. They don't want only the do and don't. They want to know why. They want to know what. They want to know how, because they also want to go around it in ways that are not only interesting, but have a meaning in their lives. And parents they have been accused of being too possessive. They don't want the baby to grow beyond where they can control with their own tentacles. But life is showing that they have gone out to school, they are finishing a secondary, they are going to college, they are staying out of home, they are getting jobs even when they're in college, they want to move out and live on their own, and the parents are like, should we allow that? So this identity, and they are already being told when they come from school, you are no longer a child.
Yeah.
Yet when they want to do something and make a decision, they are told, you are still a child. I mean, you cannot be making this.
Yes.
So that weight is a big challenge, and we have to help now pull the piece together for some bit of understanding that they have their mind of their own. These times information is much more available, so they are questioning more because they want to understand why they do stuff. You don't just tell them, wake up, we go to church. It's got to have a meaning. So we have to tell them, what is it? Why do we have to have a faith and be grounded in faith as we navigate life in young adulthood?
Okay. Dr. I'm just wondering, when we think about milestones in development, where this young adult is concerned, what are some major things we ought to be aware of in their developmental stage?
Okay. As Pastor Kivanya has just said, you know, they have their own mind. They are actually cognitively, they are now attempting very challenging pieces.
Yes.
And they are able to deal with serious questions. That is why you just can't give instructions and hope they are followed. You have to work with them, and you have to respect that. Physically, they are, as I said earlier, in full maturity. They you know, and sometimes in the prime of their life, in terms of health, in terms of energy. And so they want to do all sorts of things, and they have to learn to balance again between taking extreme action because they feel so well. They feel invincible, a little bit like adolescents. Remember, there's a bit of adolescence in them. They feel invincible, so they go out of their way and do, you know, very extreme things in sports. They'll be at the top of their sports career, but then they have to balance and not overdo stuff and get themselves injured. Sexually, they are very active and feeling very attractive. And if they are not, of course, if they're not feeling attractive, they are likely to sink into depression because this is very, you know, they feel very dejected. They're very conscious of how they look. But yes, they are at the prime of their life. And so they have to negotiate the balancing act between being, you know, facing ideals, intellectual ideals, facing social ideals, facing all that kind of independence drive, as well as the body telling them they are free and they can do whatever they like. And legally, remember, most of them have an ID. They are walking around as I'm a legal adult. And so it is actually quite a dicey piece, because there is a legal adult, and in the house you're telling them, no, you may not do this. You must be home by this time. It's kind of dicey, and we have to negotiate. As Pastor was saying, the parents as well have to learn now, how do you negotiate? How do you grow with them? How do you support them without inhibiting them too much? But you really must support them because they don't know how to balance the risks unless there's a sensible support. So these are the negotiating pieces, emotionally, psychologically, intellectually, physically. In all pieces, they are having to kind of balance out. And that's why you find them in extreme situations like in sex. They may go for sex without protection and sex with all sorts of partners, of course, with no commitment, because they are also entering that stage of learning to balance intimacy, attraction, belonging, many friends or just one friend. Or, what am I doing here? So it's actually quite a very exciting age to work with. And as I said before, intellectually, in the universities, for example, where we are teaching them, they are very, very innovative. They have new ideas. They like to cut new ground. And you want to work with them and also remind them that what others have done in the past also matters. You need to kind of have some respect for that. It's just quite a dicey and very interesting age. So I enjoy working with them in the university, because I teach in Tangaza College. But I must say that it's a risky age. They are very fragile. And it's created by, the fragility is exacerbated by the society. Because we don't give them enough support. We do not give them, they are often away from society. You say, well, he's a grown-up, he can live alone. And yes, and the parent actually may not have a choice. He's living alone. But the pressures around him without support, he thinks he can manage. He doesn't realize when he's being kind of pulled down. So it's really, really quite dicey. And
Okay.
the extension, you see, in traditional societies, when you are 18, you know how to grow your crops. You are independent. You can actually be independent. Many can get married and start families, but here now they don't have an income. They may have to go for a second degree to just get the kind of job they want.
Yeah.
So it's getting longer and longer, and the tensions between the two things or the many things, not just two, are really going on and on.
Okay.
And so yes,
there's something you said there, Reverend. I want you to maybe jump in on it. The risk factor, because they tend to get into extremes, and for a parent, this is a major concern. And so you want to shield your children, you want to protect them, but then also they're growing up. They need to learn their lessons. They need to become, the man they will be or the woman they will be. And so how do you find balance as a parent, whereby you're not holding on to them too much, but also there's the reality, especially in this age that we live in today, there's so many things happening out there, and you don't want your child exposed into anything. So you don't want to look like you're policing them, but you also want them to, know that they are grown up, they need to start making their own decisions. How do you balance that, Reverend?
Thank you. It's a very good note that Daktari has mentioned, because they are all out, they have the energy, there is room for exploration, and they also know that they know stuff that parents don't know.
Yes.
So this is how I balance it when I sit with the teens, and we are good friends, even with the young adults. I acknowledge that I don't know the stuff they know. And when I grew up, we didn't even have as many challenges, or the world was not as complicated.
Yeah.
So we sit to learn together. I would not go and give as someone where they listen and take notes and go. We actually sit and talk about issues. We actually ask what has been difficult this week, and we look at that stuff. We pray for it, and then we also talk about it. So one of the things that will come is to be topical, so that you actually walk with them. The same with the parents. Talk about engaging in sex and the effects, and you tell them this information is good. It will help you make decisions out there.
Yeah.
Talk about drugs, because now they can take drugs with a reason, they can afford them. Tell them this is what drugs do. And when we ask who has tested, how has it been? They say drugs take them higher, faster than praise and worship in church. The times when they have tested. So even as a pastor, you know that if you really want them to feel the spiritual refreshment, it's got to be higher than drugs can do. But then you come in and tell them that euphoria is what the chemicals that affect your brain and change the way you're thinking and you're living. So you come in without condemnation, help them understand the full spectrum. One of the other things, and we've taken this seriously, is mentoring them with topics like critical thinking and decision making, so that they don't just rush into anything. One time we had a scenario of a party invitation, and it was only 200 shillings to pay. And we sat to talk with them. They said, if it is being paid just that cheap, just know you are going to be part of the menu, because it can't be that cheap. And these are the elements when you tell them, analyze the factors.
Yes.
See whether it goes with your values, see whether it actually fulfills a purpose in your life, and make a decision without being pressured. And now the challenge is the pressure. They say, but even our parents have bad pressure from their peers, and we know, and they keep telling us, stay away from these friends, they're bad friends, but they also have bad friends. So the balance is sometimes getting the parents, teaching them on how to support the same young adults wherever they are and in whatever issues. And when you maintain that relationship, they will be able to give you some information on what they're thinking. But I thank God for COVID-19, because for the first time we acknowledge that teenagers and young adults can come to our rescue. You know, when we needed to get into fellowships and the services online, it was the teens who actually then the recording, it's them who uploaded, and it's them who helped their parents log into Zoom. And that was one moment where you say, all right, thank you to the young people, because they are up to date with the technology. And then other conversations can begin there, where you actually acknowledge, thank you very much, I was able to join on time. And these conversations have to continue. We've got to create time intentionally, to help them understand the spectrum between one extreme and the other extreme.
Okay.
Thank you.
Shortly, Dr. Ari will talk about relationships, because this is the age of boyfriend, girlfriend, and it is scary for parents, you know, and so how do we help our children? Because they are that age. That's the age where they start getting into these relationships. How do we help them? We'll talk about that shortly. It is now, looking at the time, what time is it? It's 7:30, giving you an opportunity to ask any questions you may have. Mzazi, do you have this young adults we are talking about? What are some things you can tell us? Or if you have questions you want to ask, feel free to do so. 20316 is the SMS line, and the WhatsApp number is 0786 316 316. Daktari, I was asking about relationships. This is the age of boyfriend, girlfriend, and it is scary for parents.
Yes.
How do we deal with it?
Pastor Fumu, I like that you start with this scary for parents, etc. And even when they are taking these risks, as Reverend Kibanya was speaking,
yes,
I think the parent needs first, and I really want to impress this strongly on parents, we need to deal with ourselves first. If you come at me with all your fears, it doesn't reassure me.
Yeah.
You need to kind of talk to your fears, listen to your fears. What are you afraid of? What do you think? Where is this coming from? So that when you come through to me, you can also be open and vulnerable, and then we can start tackling what is really at hand. Sometimes we ourselves have not dealt with ourselves, and so our conversation needs to start with being aware. What am I dealing with? What am I afraid could happen? And then when I am in a good space, speak to my child about how I feel about these things. Be a bit vulnerable. You know, sometimes we tend to think about ourselves when we were the same age our children were.
Yeah.
Okay, that's valid. But we have also changed over the years, and we are also aware of what is going on today. So that's also having an impact on us. When the children say we also suffer peer pressure, it is true. We also suffer peer pressure. You know, just to be self-aware so that as we come through to each other, you are now modeling being an adult with your child. You are modeling negotiating the delicate pieces of life and the delicate peer pressure that even the parent is experiencing, so that now you can relate with the child as yourself, such as you are, rather than just with all the baggages that you carry around you.
Yeah.
So first, be aware of yourself. Where are you coming from? What are your issues? Number two, be aware of the goodness in your child. There's so much goodness. Sometimes we are so heaped up with the worries and the fears. We are failing to see all this beauty. They are coming out in a lot of beauty at this age. They are coming out in a lot of agility. These new ideas, as Pastor was saying, you know, appreciate them, boost them, so that they're not waiting for somebody out there to appreciate the beauty. And you in the house are only seeing the dangers. You know, you should be able to see the beauty, appreciate it, you know, celebrate it, really connect with it. And again, it's a lot of self-work that comes first for that. So that then, when we are even talking about relationships, the child may be, you know, feeling very afraid, being rejected, being wanted. I was wanted last week. I'm not wanted this week.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of goes like this.
Yeah.
And you want to keep them with the perspective of the bigger picture. The bigger picture of the roles they play in relationships. Some of them are very supportive to others. Some of them are sensitive to the needs of another. Some of them are really humorous. Most emerging adults are quite humorous. You know, they see a gist in life that frequently we don't see. And when they bring it to others, it kind of lifts up a conversation. And so just to be able to keep them in sight of the bigger picture, because they have to arrive at a point where they are going to choose good relationships. But you don't want them to start by narrowing down. You want them to keep the bigger picture alert. And the bigger picture is only kept when you have more roles to play than do you like me, you don't like me, am I beautiful, you know, there's so much more to life than am I beautiful. I'm so beautiful in so many other ways besides my looks, you know. And so just to highlight the beauty of the child, their kindness, some of them, their intricate way of seeing life, etc. And to help them see that their friends also, if we have opened the conversation, they're talking about their friends, they're able to bring their friends to their our homes, then we are helping them to see that bigger picture also, because we see things that perhaps they didn't see. We see the way the others appreciate them. And that will enable them to negotiate this intimacy area in due course better, with a bigger perspective, with a greater self-appreciation, with better appreciation of the other besides just what they have and what they look like. Which sometimes is the only terrain we are looking at. So that's part of what I would like to say.
Very, very true. Reverend, how about when they make mistakes? How do we deal with that? You know, here you are a young adult, you discover they are playing around with drugs, or they're pregnant, you know, and it becomes such a big issue. How do you deal with it so that you help them to pick up the pieces and move on? Because it's very easy for you also to destroy them depending on how you deal with the issue. So how do you handle issues like that in this age?
Thank you, Pastor, and thank you, Dr. Adi, for that very, very deep expose, especially around the parents and where they also come in. The same thing, Pastor Okumu, you're asking around when they don't live up to, or when they fall down. And the question will be, parents might be perfectionists, they might be pastors like I am, and you don't expect your children to make a mistake.
Yes.
And there we go wrong, because we don't realize that when you are navigating, there are too many factors that you are not in control. The young adult is not in control, and then they might actually have to learn from those tough lessons that come. I still remember the example I give when I'm talking about parenting teens and parenting young ones. Have you reached a level where you can remove the trainer wheels, you know, those small side wheels on a bicycle for the child, so that they can now ride on two wheels and balance for themselves, or you want them to ride totally on the trainer wheels, even though they are big? That will also cause accidents. And it was difficult for me when my first daughter told me, Daddy, remove them, I can ride. And I was like, this is difficult.
Yes.
But yes, we must allow them to navigate when we are still watching and mentoring. The next thing is, should they make a mistake? It doesn't stop them from being the young who need to be mentored. There should be room, and we must cut some slack for them to make some mistakes and then sit down and say, well, what do you think about what happened? Is there anything that we can learn from it? Is there more support you may need from me? You might need to have a conversation out of the home, go somewhere, and you're saying, well, how are you? How are you? And how do you navigate this? In the process, you realize where you can come in. We need to give grace. And as pastors, we need to have developed that confidence where they can actually come and say, you know what, I think I made a mess, and I have this. I know when you nurture that relationship with grace, they'll come and tell you. Then don't go talk about it. Appreciate them that they are going through a difficult time. Help them, pray with them, but don't condemn. Because if you condemn, you have not helped. You've only scattered them. They see hopelessness. That grace helps them to come back to the fold. They may go get pregnant. How do you talk about that pregnancy, or do you ignore? You bring them closer. In the process, you will not scatter them. You will help them. And if support requires you to even get a psychologist or a counselor to help them, the better. Because research indicates that those who have gone through like errors, the pregnancy, the drugs, if they don't get professional support, there could be the repeat syndrome where they repeat exactly the same mistakes out there because they have not been given the skills to navigate. So you are going to come in a holistic way, but it requires you to be more understanding, much more grace, and then you are also seasoned with that element where you say it's okay to make a mistake, but more important to rise up from it. It doesn't change the value you have or that we have in you as our child, as a lady, as a young man, but then you have to rise up. How do you rise up? We are here with you to walk it over.
Okay. A couple of comments coming in. Maggie from Lynette, you say, I'm right there with young adults. It's tough. I keep talking and covering them in prayer. When they make a mistake, I rebuke, but make them feel loved. It's really not easy. May the Lord guide us. Magi, Mungu yuko na wewe. There's a question here. Maybe Dr. you can answer this one. This one is asking, let's say the young adult gets a job. How do they split up their income in supporting their parents and also finding a balance to stabilize themselves? Sometimes there's that pressure. Amepata tu kazi hivi, unataka alipe rent, alipe stima, alipe maji. How do you balance all that, Daktari?
Yeah, all these things is negotiation, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
When they make a mistake, we have to hear them out. You know, like we have to hear them out. What are their values? What do they want to do first? What have they been really yearning to do? We can't, jump all over them and kind of take the decisions or tell them now take over everything. As much as possible, it is a journey we walk together.
Yeah.
We can even agree. Your income is this much. So how much are you able to take on? It's possible they have such a good income that they can actually start supporting something in the family. But usually it is that they have only a small income that they can barely support their own selves, And the parent needs to realize just because a child has a job doesn't mean that they can now just go. Yeah, we may be able to say, okay, so what are you able to carry and what can I continue carrying for you for a wee bit, So again, we must have that conversation. We must work together. Even when they make mistakes, we must reason with them. Because sometimes they go into drugs and they want to argue with you that this is not a bad drug. I'm just doing this for the sake of this. Grown people have been doing this. Bob Marley was smoking this, so I'm fine. I mean, these are the arguments we are having and where they're coming from. And so listen to them and say, so what exactly is making you go there? And then you might find that the reason why they are going there is not really related directly to the drug, but we hear them out and say, oh, you want this, you can hear, I want appreciation, I want, so that you can talk to them about them and make them become more aware what really they are looking for. So the same with the money. If they have lots of it and they want to give some of it to you, again, you don't take over their lives. We have to work like we remain parents, mentors, but we help them take their independence slowly, because again, sometimes parents kind of hand over almost all the burden to you, and then the responsibility, the power, if you like, power in quotes, the power dynamics in the family may change to a situation where you cannot become a good mentor anymore going forward because you have shifted your responsibility to someone else. So we have to be very careful, very loving, and all the time interrogating our decisions. But these children are really well-intentioned, and if we stay close to them, they know they need us, they know our opinions matter, so long as we are kind. But if we come overbearingly with commands, we are losing them. We are losing them, and they'll be gone.
I think another challenge that we face as parents with our young adults is when it comes to matters career choice and what they want to do with their lives. Because as we are coming from the generation of, be an engineer, be a doctor, be an architect, and your child wants to be a DJ. Your child wants to be a professional dancer. And you're thinking, what are you your child wants to be a social media manager. What are you talking about? And so there's always that conflict. I remember a friend of mine, they really, really wanted to do, I think it was interior design. But their parent was saying, Apana, where umesoma, you have got good grades, you have to do, I don't know whether it was engineering or what. And so she went to college, did what the parents wanted her to do, came back home with the certificate and gave it to the dad. Ndio hiyo yako. Now I'm off to do what I really want to do. Such a waste of time. I don't know, Reverend, how we manage this, because so many new careers are coming up that were non-existent in our world. But we still want our children to do what was good for us when we were their age. How do we let go? Is it wise to let go?
Thank you, Pastor Okumu. It sounds like a story I know, by the way. We might catch up after this and see whether we grew up around the same environment. But more than ever before, it's getting pronounced because the moment the exam results come out, especially after Form 4, when we seek to do our wellness check with these young adults, the greatest stress is what the parents want them to do and what they want to do. There is a big disconnect sometimes because parents wanted the A's are here. It's medicine, it's engineering, it's, I don't know, piloting and all that. Sometimes parents just want to achieve what they missed, or they want to extend the legacy of doctors and engineers in the family. It could be good intentions. Maybe they'll be able to take up the business of the family and run it into the next decades. But sometimes it could be selfish. It could also be disregarding exactly how the careers market has grown. And I'll mention here, a parent has a shop and wants the young adults to be employed and to sit there the whole day, which is extremely boring. Even for me, I'll tell you, Pastor, it is boring. This young person tells them, I'll photograph every commodity in this shop, put it on a wall on Facebook, and we'll just be doing deliveries. Get me a small car. The young man or young woman sells the whole stock online without sitting in the shop. We need to now start, and that's the social media marketing we are mentioning. We need to get broad as parents, as career mentors, to actually help students to think beyond, innovate, think solutions to problems that we are having. There's now the errand business. There is these whole home deliveries of shopping and all that. And the young people are taking that one so well. So we also help parents to realize it is no longer these white collar jobs that were there. I work from home and I work across different time zones in the world, day and night. So I can sleep during the day and be up during the night. And I'm still pastoring on Saturday and Sunday. But the issue here is it is broader than it was before. Let us accept and nurture them. But here we also need to see their skills earlier and the gifts they have, so that we see how we nurture them, so that it is not just work for money. There is meeting or bringing in solutions to the challenges that people face today, and work then becomes worship. In the process, they'll be able to support you in the family somehow. They'll be able to bring the tithes and offerings in church, because we are not going to be saying we've not been part of it, so they don't see why they should even come to church. When we now come to help them budget for their money, they'll be listening, because we've walked with them through the career path. That's what I see as important here. And something I wanted to add, these young people out there are facing standards that have been set. And what they say is, if they go below that, they're going to lose their gangster points. And gangster points is where you gather on how tough you can be. Many parents don't know this, but some is getting into drugs and getting into relationships where you meet online and the first time you meet physically, you have sexual intercourse. It's to get the gangster points. So how do we address them to have the gangster points, but still also cut a personality on their own where they are respected, not because they're conformed, but they also set an agenda for the others, bringing in positive peer influence. Thank you.
Hey, gangster points. That's a new one for me.
I sit with them, so they teach me.
Daktari, before we run out of time, we've got like 3 minutes. At what point do you let go? Because young adults, they're growing, now they want independence. Sometimes as parents, we want to hold on to them until they're 35. At what point do you let go?
Now, yes, again, it's not I wish there was a magic number we could pronounce. At 28, you let go. That's not true. It is, again, as I said, the negotiated process. Again, it is a accompaniment. They go away for a week and they come back for 2. Then they go away for 2 weeks and they come back for 1. You know, and that's a symbolic way of speaking. That's to say they move slowly. I'm talking about the ideal situation where if we are talking very well, we are negotiating, we are sorting out problems together, but I am observing that you are moving on, and it's hard for me. I'm also dealing with that, rather than instead of gripping on you, I'm dealing with the fact that I missed you a lot. Now you're gone for 2 weeks. I didn't know you could be away for 2 weeks and not call for 3 days. You know, that kind of stuff. We've got to deal with our story, but really support them to stand on their own and to find their life path, you know, and to trust that it is them who will know the life path. I think sometimes we think we are the ones that have the answers. We are not the ones that have the answers. They have to find them. As Pastor was saying about jobs, we don't even know this job terrain. It's changed so much. And I just have to be clear that I actually don't know, but I'm willing to support you. How is that going for you? It didn't work so well. Do you want to try something else? Or do you know, because they also change a lot. The job world changes so much these days. So the same with settling, living alone, having a spouse, you know, that whole journey as they keep taking it up. We want to leave the door open for them to keep coming back, because that's a healthy thing forever. We want the doors to stay open across our families, but we do not want to lock them in so that they are with us forever. And that's really unfortunate and inhibiting when it happens, that we want to protect them so much that we are not letting them really move on and they do have to take some risks in order to keep moving and growing. And they just have to know the door is still open. You can come back whenever, but we will work this out together. So then there are people who get too anxious when they stay very long. Again, have that conversation. Open up and say, what's going on? What are you finding difficult out there? What are you not, how can we support you?
Yes.
So again, it is for us to support them because they become the primary actors. There was a time I was choosing the school you go to. I was choosing, which families you meet. Now you are choosing.
Yes.
And come back to me as somewhere you bounce off, so that I can suggest to you that maybe you could now live by yourself. You think you could? And let's try this, So again, to accompany them so that they get standing. 35 really, it is very late. But I'm talking like the society. What do I know? Sometimes people leave at 23 and they come back at 35 because things have fallen apart. Is your door still open? We never stop being parents. We continue to support one another. And we have networks of support, because everybody needs them,
Very, very
so
true.
I can't give you a magic date per se, obviously.
Yeah.
but I think parents, we need to remember we are not the chief actor. I think that's the main thing. So support them to find choices that will give them independence, lead them to independence, lead them to commitment, lead them to being focused.
Okay.
And they will go, but they know you are there. You are their fallback.
Very, very true. I'm just wondering, Reverend, as we finish, how old were you when you moved out of home?
Thank you. I turned 18 and the results for the university were out. And I moved from the village, came to the University of Nairobi. I've been in Nairobi and I never went back to the village. So
wow.
I found myself navigating Accra Road up to Central Police Station without anybody telling me. And life has never been the same again.
Oh,
I
my
entered in
goodness.
Nairobi, got married in Nairobi, settled in Nairobi, ministering in Nairobi, but of course having worked right all across. And the thing is, the foundation that I had got from my parents when I was younger helped me navigate to the point that I am in, of course, by the grace of God. So yes, it is possible even when they leave earlier, if we've done a good
job.
Nurturing from when they are young all the way up, and it's never too late to start learning and to help them. They will be able to navigate the turbulent world around and also enjoy the gifts that God has put in their lives. And really it's just to help them have a meaning and purpose in life, get some values to work by, and they will know when they veer off that they can come back.
Very
and they
true.
know that we are always there as parents to receive them back and guide them, comfort them when that calls for. And celebrate with them their milestones. If they buy the blue Subaru, we will celebrate with them and also tell them, please don't speed on the roads. It is dangerous.
Reverend and Dr. Asanteni Sana, I love this conversation. Thank you for finding the time to be our guest today. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Wazazi, I hope you have helped you if you have young adults you are parenting. Thank you so much for being a part of Parenting Tuesday. Until next time, God bless you.
Thank you for watching. Remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get notified whenever we upload new fresh content every day. Stay tuned and enjoy fresh, uplifting content.